I've got some tips today on co-writing. If you're a songwriter or an aspiring songwriter, what an incredible art form to jump into. I love songwriting. I love the opportunity for catharsis, to process my feelings, to tell my story, to connect with other people. Songwriting is a beautiful art form, and I love that you're jumping into it. Now, you may be like me. In my early days, I did everything by myself. I thought that it was a badge of honor to be all DIY. But what the problem was is I actually had so much fear and so much insecurity. I didn't want to hear that somebody didn't like my song, so I didn't share it with people until it was finished. And I didn't really look for or ask for feedback or ideas about how I could improve my song, because I believed somehow that if I needed help with my songs, if they needed someone else to work on them, that meant it wasn't a good song and I wasn't a good songwriter. I totally know now that was a huge lie, and I'm really glad that I was able to identify that in my life. It has totally changed the way that I write, the way that I write in community, my co-writing, my collaboration, and my feedback. And I enjoy and relish those moments of writing with other people, because I know that their strength meets my weakness and vice versa. And now everyone grows and our songs get the chance to be the best they can be. So I'm really glad that I broke up with that DIY mindset when it comes to songwriting. Now, if you want to get into some co-writing, it's one of the best things you can do. People are co-writing here, there, and everywhere. It's a great way to develop your songwriting skills. And it's also a great way to complete a song that you might be struggling with. And it's also a great way to have potential long-term income from royalties down the track. You might write a song with another artist who records it and releases it. You don't have to do the work, but you get a percentage of that copyright royalty. It's such a good thing. So let's chat about some co-writing options and my 3 tips for co-writing if you are new to it. Let's jump in. Okay, so I want you to start each session with a conversation. Start and end each session with a conversation about how you're going to approach songwriting ownership. And you also need to get it in writing. And you might be like, Kate, what is songwriting ownership? We're going to go into royalties at another time. But the lyrics and the melody are the 2 things that are actually copyrightable. You can't copyright a beat or a chord progression or even a guitar riff, really. It's lyrics and melody. So I've definitely written songs with people, but I wrote the lyrics and melody. They put chords to it. If we nitpick about it, they don't own the song. I own the song 100% because I wrote the lyrics and the melody. But that's not really a great way to build equitable connection. If we're doing it together, there's a couple of ways to manage that sense of sharing of the royalties. Because if I do write a song with somebody else, even if I write the lyrics and the melody and they write the chords, we wrote it together. And so it is good to talk about how you're going to share that ownership. So I usually start off the meeting with a bit of a chat, like, are we all happy to agree to an even copyright split for anything we write today? And usually everyone's going to be happy to do that, especially at the beginning of a session. They're going to be super happy to do that. But then the reason I want you to ask that question at the end of the session as well is that maybe someone was in there for 10 minutes and then they got a phone call and they had to leave. Are they still going to be included in the 2-hour-long writing session if they were only there for 10 minutes at the beginning? Maybe they're not going to be part of an even split. Maybe they get a smaller percentage or they get nothing, but you just need to have a conversation at the beginning, at the end. But no matter what you decide, it's really important to get it on paper, to get it in writing, or maybe even a shared Google Doc, send it around to everyone in the group so that it's clear what the agreement is. It's way better to get this agreement at the beginning of the process rather than later on down the track when you're trying to get some publishing, you're trying to record it, or you're dealing with people who go, no, I should get more of a cut than you think they should because you didn't clarify that at the beginning. That is tip number 1. Make sure you have a conversation at the beginning and at the end of every session about what your co-writing split is going to be. Okay, tip number 2, start every session with a little bit of social time. I really believe that creativity flourishes in a place of safety. If you feel connected, if you feel safe, if you feel known and trusted, then you can come up with crazy ideas. You can offer something left of center without worrying, oh, I wonder if I don't want them to think that this is a dumb idea, or hold back what your thoughts are because you're afraid of offending that person, or you don't feel safe in that connection. So the opportunity is to chat about each other's lives, share stories and interests and recent events, do it over a coffee or a cup of tea or a snack. This is amazing. The more you do this, the more your creativity is going to be encouraged to flow. And it's actually likely that an interesting topic's going to come out of that session. So you're going to go, wow, that's a really cool story. Why don't we write a song about that? Man, that reminds me of this. And you go on this great tangent because of this story that someone has shared, or this moment in that connecting point. As the relationship is going to develop over time, it's going to be really beneficial for you, especially if you want to write with them again. If you've got a really great connection, that's more than just whether you wrote a good song or not. If they enjoy the experience with you, they're going to want to write again. So my tip number 2 is to start your session with a little bit of social time. And my third tip for this video for co-writing is to choose to not make it personal. Now, this can be really challenging if you are brand new to writing, if you are new in your writing journey and you're very much in that self-expression phase. Usually your first or your second album are really going to be songs of self-expression. It's the story of your life. It's your heart on paper and in song. And so if someone says they don't like it, they're essentially like coming at your whole life story. And it can be really difficult to separate yourself from your art in that space. And I totally get that. I've been in that space very often. But people who write professionally, who write songs every day, they're not necessarily putting their own heart and soul into every song they write. Doesn't mean they don't connect with it or it's not authentic to them. But they're able to receive feedback and make changes and, cull or edit sections easily because they're not taking it personally. The cutting of a verse doesn't mean that you're not a good writer or that story is not valid. They're thinking about what's best going to serve the song or the audience that the song is for. So they're thinking about, how do I write the best song, rather than whether this song is really going to accurately reflect who I am. Newer or less experienced writers often find it hard to separate themselves from their work. And if you're in that space, that's okay. That's really all right. But if you're going to do co-writing, it's really important that you choose to not make it personal. Because if you're jumping into a co-writing session and someone doesn't like something or brings a different idea or maybe brushes past your idea, it's likely you're going to get offended, you're going to get precious about what you're writing, and you're not going to respond very well to criticism or feedback. And that's not very conducive to a good co-writing session. Co-writing works well when everyone involved has an attitude of collaboration, really that all the ideas go on the table. I like to write down, actually have a document and have lyrics, and I write down every lyric that comes up, because you never know when you're like, oh, we need another line, and I scroll down, oh yeah, well, this lyric down here, that makes sense, now that works. The idea is that everything goes on the table, we keep an open mind, and we choose not to make it personal. All right, let me recap my 3 points for getting started with co-writing. Number 1 is to start each session with a short conversation about how you're going to approach the copyright split and get it in writing. Number 2 is to start the session with a bit of social time. Number 3, choose not to make it personal. All right, what do you think about those tips? I'd love to hear from you. Do you think that maybe you're going to approach co-writing a little bit differently now that you know those tips? I would love to connect with you. If you want to chat further about this, make sure you hit me up on socials. If there's anything you'd love me to touch on or teach into around being an indie artist and writing music, getting your music out into the world, just let me know. Fill in the feedback form below. Here at Westwood Management, we are sharing the good news that there is room for you at the table. It is possible for you to have a vibrant indie music career, and the best way we can do that is by doing it with others. Thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe and click the little bell so that you get all notifications about new videos. I'll catch you soon.